Most Mac users have iCloud Drive enabled without really knowing what it's for or how best to use it. Let's fix that. My last tutorial about iCloud Drive has helped over 123,000 people, but that was almost 3 years ago, and since then, things have changed, so it's time for an update. In the next 15 minutes, I'll walk you through how to get started with iCloud Drive and how to make the most of its features. Let's get into it. First, what is iCloud Drive? Now, many Mac users use their home folder to store their files, documents, and photos. The home folder, as you can see via the path down here, this is stored or located on your Macintosh hard drive. So when you put a file or document in a folder in this home folder, it's only on your Mac. It's stored locally. It's not available online. iCloud Drive is a separate location, and this is what you would use to store your documents online using your iCloud data so that you can access your files and documents on other devices like your iPhone or iPad. You'll find iCloud Drive in the sidebar here in the Finder on your Mac, or on your iPad or iPhone, you'll find iCloud Drive in the Files app. And I have no idea why it's called Files on an iPad, but Finder on a Mac. Now, personally, I don't keep any of my files or documents in the home folder. I want to have access to them on the go on any device, which is why I've stored them in this Documents folder, which is in iCloud Drive. And I think that's a great strategy for most Apple users, especially if you work on multiple devices, you work on a Mac, but you have an iPhone and an iPad, then storing your files in iCloud Drive means you can access those documents wherever you are. It's also going to make sharing a lot easier. If you have a big file or movie in iCloud Drive, you can actually share that with other people much easier than you can if it's stored locally. Now, how much you can store in iCloud Drive depends on your overall iCloud storage plan. So open Settings on your Mac, click on your Apple account at the top, and go down to iCloud. This is where you manage your storage and iCloud Plus subscription. Now, Apple gives you 5 gigabytes of storage for free, which for most people is not enough. Most people are going to need between 50 to 200 gigabytes. I have 2 terabytes, and that's because we are on an Apple family plan, and we have a related video up here. Often setting up an Apple family is more cost effective, especially if you're using multiple Apple services across multiple Apple accounts. You may find you're better off getting an Apple family plan. And our iCloud Plus subscription is being used not just by iCloud Drive, but other Apple products and services like My Apple Photos, Contacts, and Calendar. All of those services contribute towards my total consumption or allowance, along with my iCloud Drive. Now, if you're not seeing this iCloud Drive location in your Finder, you may need to enable it. So click on iCloud Drive here and make sure you've turned on Sync This Mac. From here, I also recommend turning on the Desktop and Documents folders. So that's where you have a subfolder like this, Documents, and that's actually where I then nest out my personal and work-related files. But you can also see you can sync your desktop, and that's why on the sidebar or in iCloud Drive we have the desktop folder here. You can also see it here on my sidebar. So anything I store on my Mac's desktop, I can also access on my other Apple devices. And finally, I also recommend turning on Optimize Mac Storage. What this is going to do is if your Mac notices you haven't opened or used a file for a while, it's going to offload it. In other words, it'll keep it in your iCloud Drive, but in order to free up space on your Mac, it removes the local copy. Don't worry, it's not gone. It's still available online, and you can download a copy again later if you need to, but that's just a nice way to free up space on your Mac as you go. Next, it's simply a case of storing your files and creating folders to organize everything. Now, if you click on iCloud Drive, at the very top of the hierarchy, you're going to find a number of folders like Documents and Desktop. Those are the ones that we just enabled in that previous setting. But as you download apps like Pages, Numbers, and Keynote, you may find these extra folders appearing. And that's because the application creates this folder in your iCloud Drive to store files that you create using its application. Now, you can store files in here. If you create a Pages document, you could store it here. Personally, I would rather sort files in a more meaningful way for me rather than sorting them by app. So what I've done is I've put everything under Documents. And to make Documents easier to access, I've dragged this onto my sidebar here, which is how I've got this shortcut. It's actually got this little cloud icon that shows it's an iCloud Drive folder. And then from here, I've broken this down into things like personal and work. If I open work, I've got subcategories for various aspects of my work. I've got accounting and admin, media, images and things, products, resources, and so on. Now, I recommend creating a simple folder hierarchy to categorize the different areas of your personal or work-related files so things are easier to find and it's kind of obvious and quick to work out where to put something. And if up to this point you've been storing everything in your local home folder, you simply need to drag a folder or a file from home into iCloud Drive. You see there it says waiting to upload. Actually, it's a small file, so it's uploaded straight away. My status indicator is saying iCloud has now synced. It's now in my drive, and it's now showing up on my iPad. And to further organize your files, you can use tags, which you'll find on the sidebar in the Finder here, or if you right-click on a file. Now, think of tags as a useful way of adding a label to a file to group together similar types of files that are spread out across your iCloud Drive. So I might have a receipts tag. Some of those receipts might be in personal, some might be in work, and I can use that one tag to group everything together. So actually I do have a receipt here, and I can add, let's say, this favorite tag. You see it has the little green indicator now. And when I click on favorites, I can find every single document with that tag. Personally, I don't use many tags. The main one that I use is this favorite one, which I really use to just get quick access to folders and files that I use on a frequent basis. I have a few other tags for things like templates or to sort files that I plan to archive later. Now, in your sidebar, you might be seeing them as green, blue, and red, but to rename them, you can just right-click on the file and rename here. Or to create a new tag, right-click on a file and come down to tags, type the name of the new tag, and you can create a new one and give it a color. Now, when managing your files in iCloud Drive, you're going to want to pay attention to the little symbols and icons that appear next to files and folders. If you have a file like this with no icon next to it, this means the file is on your computer. It's also in iCloud Drive, but you have a local copy. So even if you don't have access to the internet, there's no need to download the file. You have it here on your computer. If I right-click on a file, I can remove a download. This is going to then offload the file to the cloud. So the file now exists in iCloud Drive, and I've freed up space. I've removed the local copy from my Mac. And so now you can see lots of these folders, and this file have the little cloud icon with the down arrow. I can click that symbol, or I can right-click and download the file, and now I've downloaded a local copy again. So that's something you can do if you're planning to be offline or travel. You can download files from iCloud Drive so they are accessible on the go. And you might recall from earlier, I turned on this setting to optimize my Mac storage. Now, that's great because my Mac is going to remove files if I haven't used them for a while, but there are sometimes use cases where I want to keep a folder of documents downloaded. I don't want my Mac offloading them without me knowing. And so what I've done with this video editing folder, this is where I store files for like this video that I'm editing, I've chosen to keep this downloaded. So it has this solid icon, the solid circle with the down arrow. That means everything in this folder is going to stay downloaded. When iCloud Drive first came out, or maybe even just a few years ago, this feature didn't exist. So this is a really nice update to iCloud Drive in recent years. And as I mentioned earlier, one of the great benefits of storing documents in iCloud Drive is the ability to easily share. I can right-click on any file, and if I come down to the sharing options, I can either send somebody a copy of a file, if I just want to email them a copy, or if I choose the collaborate option, I can then say, okay, people I invite or anyone I just share the link with can make changes to a document or can view it. I can then invite people with a link. iCloud Drive is going to create a shareable link, and that has now copied a link to my clipboard, which I can see here in Raycast. By the way, if you're on a Mac, check out Raycast. This is a fantastic launcher app, but you can see there the iCloud link that I have copied. I could paste this into an email to share this document with anyone I like. Or what I've done with this video editing folder, if I come to the managed shared folder settings, I've actually shared this with John and my brother Mark, who helped me with editing. And because they are Mac users, they need to open the Finder on their Mac, and they will find this exact video editing folder on their Mac. So when I'm done recording this video today, they will just open their Mac, the file that I've created will appear on their machine, and it makes collaborating, especially on big documents like this, really seamless. Most Apple users these days have an iCloud Plus subscription, usually because you needed more space on your phone for all the photos you've been taking, and so now you can utilize that space for iCloud Drive. Plus, you get all the other benefits of iCloud Plus, like Private Relay, Hide My Email, and custom email domains. If you want to learn more about any of these features, or if you have any questions, leave me a comment down below. I respond to everyone. Thank you very much for watching.